Hello class, here we are. This week we're going to be covering two chapters. Remember that we're going to be reading and discussing chapters 5 and 6 together. Two different discussions, but on the same week. And I am going to make a video for both of them combined since both chapters do complement each other fairly well. You're going to be dealing with classroom assessments or performance assessments and the rubrics associated to them. Let's start with the classroom assessment. The first thing you need to understand is how assessment fits within the framework of testing and evaluation. Testing is the smallest, more discrete form of the three, and it basically is a sample of a student behavior at one particular time in isolation. In education, usually this means an exam. Assessment is more complex than that. It includes a number of measurable factors, if you wish, a number of measurable tools and results that come beyond your testing, your standardized testing. Over that, the biggest of them all is evaluation, which is when we put all the data that we have together and we make inferences, we make decisions on support, we make decisions on students' grades, we make decisions on extra support and placements and things of this nature. That's an evaluation of the student's performance. Assessment is a little smaller than that, but bigger than testing, which is a one discrete measure in isolation in time. Okay, assessments, these classroom assessments or performance assessments are basically, very generally, they're just assessments that you do in the students ongoing in the classroom. You're constantly assessing the student as you teach the classroom. This is very productive because it informs you as a teacher how the student is performing, but it also informs you about your teaching and how you can model it, how you can change it or adapt it or calibrate it to reach the students. These types of classroom assessment or performance assessments are going to include a variety of things. But before we get to that, which is very well explained in the book for some subject matters, we need to say that these classroom or performance assessments do complement your large-scale standardized assessment, the tests. They complement them. And those tests are basically based a couple of terms that you want to learn that the book throws, and I don't think they explain very well. They throw this norm reference and criterion reference. Okay, it's a very simple difference. A norm reference test is a test in where the student is evaluated based on his peers. In education, we call it we're curving the exam, right? When you give the top student is the top, is an A. And then everybody else measures related to him. A criterion reference test is a test where the students are weighted based on a criterion. You know, you need this to get an A. You need a 90 to get an A. And that's based on, it's aligned to this knowledge. You get a 90 because you answer the questions this way. 9 out of 10 multiple choice, if that's your criterion. But it could be many different criterions, but it basically is that. It tells you, for me to consider you an A student, to make the inference that you are top of the class, for me to do that, you need to reach this criterion that I set up right here. The norm reference doesn't do that. The norm reference makes you the top of the class if you're the top of the class. That's it. It compares you to your peers. And that we call that a norm. A norm in statistics is like when we, if we create an exam, psychometricians create an exam, and then it's normatized by sampling a number of students, and that's your norm group. Well, in a norm reference test, your norm group is you and your classmates. And then when you perform, they compare you to your classmates. Norm reference versus criterion reference. I don't think they explain it well, so I hope that helped. And that's about larger scale standardized assessments, but we're talking about classroom assessment, performance assessment, ongoing in the classroom. It comes in many different ways. Mostly the structure you need to understand is that one about task, activities, questions, projects, the square map that comes in the book. Don't recall the page. And you do see in the chapter some examples of how to develop, design, and implement one classroom assessments following that structure of question, task, activities, projects. There's a large appendix. It's not the one we're doing for our reflection for chapter 5, but there is one large appendix that also takes you through a specific, I think it's science. I think it's a science project, an unit project, and it divides into tasks and questions and activities and so on. So look at that. It's not easy to understand. I remember teaching this in the past, and it was a little complex for some of us. But I think you will understand it, and at least holistically, I think now you have a better understanding of what testing is, what assessment is, what evaluation is, and how we're going to be dealing with classroom or performance assessments ongoing. It could be a performance assessments, could be Q&A in the classroom. It could be your notes, observing a student doing a lab activity in the classroom, a hands-on chemistry project in the classroom. Now, this is going to take us to chapter 6, because these classroom assessments, these performance assessments are huge. They give you an incredible amount of data, a robust amount of data to pull from to complement their CELA and CSAP scores. Now, the only issue for that is that legislators, parents, and the public do trust CELA and CSAP. It has been developed by professionals. It is standardized across the board. It's equal to everybody. There's no fair disadvantage or advantage for everybody, supposedly, the way the test is developed and implemented. Everybody, same terms, same conditions, same test. It's fair for everybody. We're measuring everybody the same. They like that. We like standards. We like standardization. We like being fair, leveling out the playing field for everybody. Whether we like CELA or CSAP is a whole different question. But we implement it the same for everybody with the allowed accommodations, and that's it. Well, for you to document your assessment, your performance assessments, your classroom assessments, for you to document that and for them to have validity, you can't go willy-nilly. You can't go to classroom, without a plan and just observing what the students are doing and just working out of your memory. In research, when we do ethnographic interviews, like if you go out and you're observing people and stuff, they say past 4 hours after the observation, you lose a large percentage of what you saw. So you can't go willy-nilly with these performance assessments. That's where rubrics, chapter 6, comes into place. Rubrics are huge for many different factors. Number one, they cover your back. They cover your back because you're like, listen, I have a battery of performance assessments that have been documented throughout the year that complement my CELA CSAP score, whether they're writing samples, whether they're classroom observations, photos, I don't know. Read chapter 5. The performance assessments are anything that happens in the classroom, organized with you, keeping an eye on things, taking notes, with rubrics. What are rubrics? Why do they cover your back? Because you're not going willy-nilly. You know what you're looking for. You know what a top performing for that activity looks like, what an intermediate performance for a specific activity looks like, and what an insufficient performance looks like. Would you want to call it A, B, C, and F? Do that. You want to call it exceed expectations, meets expectations, fails to meet expectations? Call it that. Chapter 6 gives you, 5, 6 different varieties of types of rubrics you can create, but rubrics are huge because they cover your back. You can actually document. I'm not just willy-nilly. I'm not just looking at my students and making assumptions based on whatever. No, I'm making assumptions and making inferences and making decisions and calibrating my instruction based on these rubrics that I have developed, that I have right here, and that I am constantly referring to. They back you up. They provide. Remember how I just told you a minute ago that we like CELA and CSAP because standardization, fairness to everybody is well developed? Guess what? With rubrics, you can guarantee you're evaluating everybody the same. You're providing fairness. So there is validity. It provides validity to your assessment.